All right, so welcome to the next episode of Discipline, Desire, and Dedication. My name Dakota Lang, along with my dog, Mr. Thomas Hernandez.
Yes.
What up, big dog?
Good to see you, bro. Good to be here.
Like I said in the last one, Cotton's not able to join us today. He is currently at the hospital having his second baby. So
That's awesome.
Or Caitlin's having their second baby.
Yeah.
So wish for a healthy baby. Caitlin being healthy as well. That's the most important.
Absolutely, yeah.
But what's up, bro? Glad to finally get you on the pod. You excited?
Yeah, no, it's been cool. I think I started kind of watching along, right around whenever you guys started it.
Yeah.
I know you were back in Denver at that time, and then I think one of the first ones I watched where I sat through the whole thing was the Austin when you finally got here, kind of talking about some of the changes you and Garrett went through.
Yeah.
So it's dope.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and. So a little backstory on Thomas. So Thomas has been with Performance Windows for right over 2 years now, or right at 2 years?
Yeah, almost 3. Yeah,
almost 3 years.
Yeah, 2.5.
Yeah, and he's worked in multiple different offices.
Yeah.
He actually came back and started working with our office in Austin, November or October.
November.
Yep. Yeah, I think it was first of November.
Yeah.
Right. 1st of November came in, dude, and the growth that you have is truly incredible,
Yeah.
But let's kind of just jump into your backstory, bro. Who
Yeah.
you were as a kid, your family, and just tell us about you.
Yeah, so it's pretty simple. I'm from Austin, born and raised in kind of the South Austin area, and I mean Austin's not a horrible place to be from. It's pretty nice. It has its rough areas, it has its struggles, but single mom household. I think that's kind of where I get some of my grind from, and just being able to there was no losing option, right? Single mom, she had to take care of all 4 of us, so I think that plays a big part into kind of this whole thing. But yeah, I mean, growing up, I think I always knew I would be successful. My mom is I always tell people I blame my mom for my ego, because she genuinely was telling me you're the chosen one, you're going to be the one that changes our generational timeline, you're going to be that kind of person, right? So I think always growing up, I knew I would figure it out, but yeah, it was hard. Saw a lot of different things growing up, things that I would say kind of built my character, kind of made me who I am today. So yeah, just pushing through some struggles for sure.
Yeah. And talk about your childhood. I know you say you had a single house, single mom household, single mother. 4 siblings.
Yeah.
So, and you were the youngest?
I am, yeah. I'm the youngest.
So you're the youngest, which is incredible. So, kind of talk about that, when you were in school and stuff like that, were you always pushing yourself to be an entrepreneur, or were you kind of wanting to go the college route? Kind of talk about, middle school up through high school.
Yeah, so I think middle school, I was just a bad kid, to be honest. School wasn't even a priority for me. I was just being around people. I was kind of just the product of your environment thing is real. All the people I was hanging out with were just people I grew up with, and none of their family went to college. None of their family were entrepreneurs, so you kind of had an idea of what life looked like after school, which is really that's when real life starts. Middle school, high school is the fun part, right? This is the time we get to be bad and then, rely on our moms and stuff, right? So I would say in middle school, it was just kind of a blur, just doing things normal, kids probably shouldn't be doing. And then high school is whenever, I back to my good friend Christian, I remember telling him, we just got to do something because we're not going to college. I knew for a fact I wasn't going to go to college, throughout my entire life. It just wasn't something that ever, caught my eye. Let me go to college and let me go try to be a doctor or something, right? I just knew that wasn't a possibility for me. But I think that I think it's exactly what I said. I just knew I didn't want to be poor. I knew I didn't want to struggle, seeing my mom cry and worry about bills and things like that. It just was a wake-up call for me. That is real life. There is situations where you're just struggling, right? So me and Christian, we would always throw different ideas at the wall, why don't we start I think at the big time when I was in high school, people were starting to do bouncing house businesses where you'll go buy a bunch of bouncing houses off Craigslist and then rent them out. And I was that's it. That's how we're going to get rich. And then we went down the vending machine rabbit hole where you go buy a couple vending machines and you make $10K a month. It's the easiest thing to do in the world. So we always figured that we'd put our money together. I started working a full-time job and I was 16. I remember my mom used to threaten me if you don't get your grades together, I'm going to make you quit that job. And I was working at Popeyes 40 hours a week and going to school. So it was. Yeah, I don't even think it was legal for them to do that, but it happened. Yeah, I was working a full-time job. Me and all my buddies, we'd put our money together, kind of figuring out what we're gonna do. So yeah, I would say that from like, what is it, sophomore year to senior year, that was our plan. Like, we're gonna put all our money together and we're gonna start a business in something, whether it was the vending machines or the bounty houses or something like that. So that's kind of when it clicked for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and whenever that was in junior senior year of high school.
Yeah.
Y'all did move forward with like the bouncy houses and they
So yeah, we finally had like this amount of money that we were all going to put into something, and then we kind of like stopped being friends. So it's like we were grinding, got into like little petty arguments that normal like teenage, boys go through, and then we kind of just split up. So the plan was like halted right then and there.
kind of talk about that, right? That you build yourself up. Obviously you were in high school, but you build yourself up. You got all this plan. You're maneuvering. You're working at Popeyes 40 hours a week plus going to school. You're stacking bread in your eyes. You know what I mean? Kind of talk about how whenever that whole thing split up, that was a big reality check for you, I assume.
Yeah.
And being like, okay, well, what's the next step?
Yeah, and that's a good point, because I think like I knew that I was different than like a normal high school kid. Like, I didn't go to prom. I wasn't going to pep rallies. I wasn't involved in school. I wasn't going to football games and stuff like that. And a lot of people thought I was weird. They're like, "Yo, like, why don't you like to like have fun? Like, right? Like, you don't really go to parties. You don't really do anything like that." But it's just because I knew that real life was coming. So when like we all kind of like went our own separate ways, I actually was just like, all right, I'm gonna get into like social media managing. So I would find like local barbers and people who did music and stuff like that, and I would actually just like run their Instagram for them. I would go be a cameraman for them at times too, just so they could have someone like pushing their media. And I started making decent money with that, and I was just like, okay, well, this is it then. I was a very like quick believer. I believed that if like I can see it, if it works, then I'll just continue to do it until it worked, which I think why this whole thing ended up working out the way it did as well. Just knowing I had to do something, because I wasn't going to go to college and I wasn't going to go to trade school or something like that. So starting little businesses, and they would fail, but that was the plan for sure.
That's pretty cool. When going to different barbers and stuff like that. How long did you do like the social media managing?
Probably like a year. Yeah, I made decent money, and I worked. Then at this point, I'm starting to work at like HEB.
Yeah.
Because I'm graduating high school. I literally went to graduation, grabbed my diploma, and just left.
Yeah.
So I was never involved in the whole thing. I knew that I had to get something going like quick. So yeah, I would say right after high school, probably about a year of just me just doing the social media stuff, being like a cameraman for barbers, music videos and stuff like that, and just like helping people have a brand, I guess. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, have a media presence.
I thought that's what I was gonna do for sure.
Marketing, big time. So you do that. When was you're working at HEB? Whenever you got your diploma, you were working at HEB and doing the social media at the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of talk, and you were still living at home with your mom?
Yes. Yeah.
Whew.
It was bad.
Yeah. Talk about that a little bit more in depth, right? Your mental state at the time. What were you just like, man, well, this is my life? Is that kind of where you were? Or were you like, no, like this, I have to keep striving for more? Kind of talk about where your mental was at that time.
Yeah. So, I mean, I got to a point where I started to feel weird about myself. Like, my older siblings would come over and be like, oh, you're still here? Like, Mom, when are you going to finally tell them that, like, that social media stuff's not going to be a thing, right? Like, I got that vibe, and I felt that in my head, like, okay, maybe this isn't working, but I didn't really have another choice. So my idea of it was just, like, I'm going to continue to live off my mom and then, grind at this. And then when it works, then that'll be my big payback to her, right? I'll, be able to change her life and change my life. Yeah. So it sucked. I mean, I also didn't like working at HEB. Like, it was kind of weird to be like the camera guy on the weekend, and then like you see me bagging groceries. Like it didn't make sense to a lot of people, because I also tried to keep like a pretty good image for myself. My social media was like marketing guy, and then I'd be at bagging groceries at HEB. So it was kind of a hard mental thing for me for sure, where I was like, what am I doing? Like, I'm going to continue to roll with this, but there's a timeline on it, and I didn't know when that was. But yeah, I would say that was kind of where I was at, just trying to stay focused on what I had in front of me, but I also was definitely feeling bad about myself at that time.
Just knowing that there was more out there.
Yeah, 100%.
So talk about your transition. So you went into that working at HEB. How did you get presented with the opportunity at Performance Windows?
Yeah, so I think it's a really cool story. Personally, I met Vanessa at HEB, which is my wife, and
She was working at HEB?
Yeah, she was. We met at HEB.
She was the cashier. You was the bag boy.
So actually, at that point, I started working security for HEB, which kind of like teed the whole thing up because I'm naturally a pretty quiet person. Like I don't want to be in front of the room yelling at everyone. Like I'm just like pretty particular about when I speak. But when I started working security for HEB, that's whenever I had to like go catch people stealing and be like, "Hey, dude, take that out of your bag." Being real direct with people. So I think that was a skill that like I know for a fact that helped me big time, even within performance. But just being able to go up to someone and tell them exactly what I need from them, which is like stop stealing, right? But met Vanessa at HEB. We get married within like maybe 6 or 8 months. Very quickly, our families thought we were insane. But then that's when like the big boy stuff really hit me. I was just like, I'm married now, and we were living with my mom at the time, and that was like causing all kinds of problems. To me, I'm my mom's little boy, and then to Vanessa, I'm her husband. So that was clashing. My mom made it very clear that like that wasn't going to work out. So then, yeah, me and Vanessa ended up having to move out of my mom's house in not like the best way possible. It was kind of just a quick turnaround where huge argument broke out. And now, we're out and we go to live with my sister for like a week. I'm trying to like put all the pieces together. Got the HEB, got the marketing thing. And then, my aunt was like, "Hey, look, I will rent you out like the upstairs part of my house. But you're going to have to pay. You're gonna have to pay a lot," which at the time for me was like $1,200, right? Because I was making maybe $1,800 a month and I had a car, right? So we went from like living good at mom's house, having all this extra money, being able to go on these fun dates to like poor, like scratching, like no food in the fridge at times. And like, I think I look back at it now, like it was such a growing moment for me. Like I was from so comfortable to so uncomfortable overnight was like crazy to me. So, back to the same thing. I was like, all right, well now marketing is really not cutting it, right? Like I need something that's real. And then I got sold on real estate. So everyone was like, if you become a realtor, you'll be a millionaire by the time you're 20. And at this time, I'm like 17. So I'm like, that's what I'll do. I'm just going to be a realtor and I'm going to be the best realtor there ever was. I'm telling Vanessa, I'm going to be a realtor. Yeah, this is all fine. We don't have to worry about it. So then I go to like actually look into how to do it. And you have to pay all this money up front. You got to do your class and stuff like that. And I genuinely just couldn't afford it. So I get a job at Amazon and I'm just stacking my money so I could eventually pay for all the upfront costs to become a realtor. And then I remember one day I was like, maybe I'm just looking into this like way too much. Maybe this realtor thing's not real. And like I watched a video like horror stories about being a realtor and it completely like just destroyed my confidence.
Let me hear. What kind of horror story?
It was just like, don't become a realtor. You won't get paid for 6 months. And I was like, well, then I can't do that. Like
YouTube?
Yeah, YouTube. Like, don't become a realtor. You won't get paid for 6 months. Your people will steal money from you. It's actually not that good. Like this, I went 8 months without a sale. Like just stuff like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I thought it was the complete opposite. I thought you become a realtor and you're just rich, right? But yeah, so I'm at working at Amazon, and I remember talking to Christian. We ended up reuniting at Amazon again, and I was just like, dude, something has to change. Like I will do anything to like get out of this situation. And then I saw the Indeed ad, so I'm like, yeah, I'm one of the few people from Indeed that take it as far as they do, but yeah, that's what it was. Seeing the Indeed ad, and I was like, all right, well, door to door. It said door to door on my Indeed ad, and I was like, that sounds horrible, but I will do anything. Yeah. So that's where I was at when I moved into the job.
Yeah. I think it's awesome because we have now, two Indeed market owners in the company, and they both came out of Austin, Texas.
It's true.
Which is incredible. Right?
It is really cool.
Really give props to Zach and his leadership, whenever y'all came in. You and Jaden.
Yeah.
Talk about, so you see the Indeed ad, right? Door to door. What, you apply?
Yeah.
You call in the office? What was that thought? I know you just said that, you saw it and big numbers, you're probably like, dude, I'll do anything.
Yeah.
But what was the next process?
Well, it's funny because I applied to a bunch of door-to-door jobs after that Indeed ad. I was like solar, roofing, and then performance just happened to call me first. And then one thing about that was just I got a phone call where it was like, hey, you'll make like $800 a week. And I was like, no one makes $800 a week. Like, this sounds like a big scam. And I actually did interview with like AT&T, which was like another door-to-door, but it was like $50 a sale or something crazy. And I was just like, there's no money in that. But when this guy calls me and he's like, yeah, you should come in, you'll make like $800 a week. I literally got off the phone call and I walked back in the house and Vanessa was like, oh, was that like your interview? And I was like, yeah, but I'm not going to go. Like, this guy's telling me I'm going to make $800 a week. Like, there's just no way. Like, she's like, well, you should just like check out the interview. Like, what if you do like it? And I like had no plans to go until she told me that. So I go into the interview and then I meet with Zach. And Zach, the interview was kind of like so blurry to me, but all I remember him saying is like, yeah, I made like $200,000 my first year. And I was like, done. Yeah, I'll do it. Like, if that's real, I will do it. But then I go home and I'm walking inside and I tell my aunt, because she had been pushing me, like, you're not going to get your own place working one job. You should get two jobs. So I tell her in an exciting way, like, hey, I got a second job. And she's like, okay, what is it? And I explained to her the whole situation. She was like, that is the stupidest thing in the world. Like, that doesn't exist. I used to sell door-to-door Kirby and like it was a scam. Like, they're just going to waste your time. It's free marketing. So I was like, she's right. Yeah, like I should just go get a second hourly job. Walk right back upstairs. She's like, Vanessa, how's your interview? I was like, it was good, but my aunt said this. And she was like, no, if that guy can make $200,000, then you can make $200,000. You have to try it out. So I went in and I shadowed like my first 3 days. I just went out and shadowed JT, and I was just like waiting for the job to prove itself to me, because I would go out there. I didn't see JT get anything. I saw him set a couple appointments, but on like my third day, I saw Adrian get a sale, and it was like 30 grand. And then Zach said in the team meeting, like, well, Adrian, you just made, $2,000 or something. And I was like, okay, it's real. And Zach's like, yeah, Thomas, why don't you get up and like pass off script? You've been here for like 3 days. And I was just like, nah, I'm not ready. And he was like, all right, well then go home. And then when you are ready to pass off script, come in the next day. So I went in, learned the script top to bottom in a day. I really hadn't been looking at it at all. And then, yeah, came in.
Yeah. And when was that?
That was October 15th, 2022.
2020. And how old were you?
I was, I think I was 18.
18 years old.
18.
18 years old. That's crazy. And so you come into the job, kind of talk about, you come into, you pass off script, right? You go live, kind of talk about your first couple months, you know what I mean? Yeah. First time on the doors, you can feel a little bitty, and then obviously, you can get a big ego, but the doors will always make you respect them, right?
Big time, yeah. No, for sure. I would say, my first week I had 2 recruits already. I brought in Christian and my friend Josh, because I was like, this job is awesome, like I hadn't even got paid yet, but then I got my first sale my first week, and I'm showing everyone like, look, dude, I just made $1,000, like knocking some doors. Like, yeah, it's uncomfortable, but it's not that hard. Then I got my slump. I got a sale pretty much every week since when I was a knocker, but I started having some fall off, right? So then money's getting a little tight. We started spending more money now that I'm thinking I'm making big money. But yeah, it was pretty humbling. I would go through times where like I would sit in my car like, this isn't for me. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing. And then one of my recruits, Josh, at one point he was like, dude, let's just get into car sales. Like, so I had those moments where like very big highs, 2 or 3 sales in a day, and then like very bad lows where I'm like, maybe I should go sell solar. You know what I mean? But yeah, I would say my first month was just complete garbage. My second month I started to pick up, and then my third month my recruit quit and I qualified that month. And I remember Zach pulled me in like, hey, Josh just quit, or are you gone too? And I was like, no, dude, like I think that was a good thing. I think he was holding me back, and now I'm gonna 100% commit. And I qualified in December, qualified January, so I qualified in 4 months.
Kind of talk about your thought process, right? Whenever you were, you got the 3 sales, and then you weren't getting no money, weren't selling anything, weren't getting paid, and in the back your partner over here is telling you to go into car sales or exploring different options, right? What was the thing that kept your mental state to where you knew exactly where you were going, to where you didn't get off track?
Yeah,
How did you prevent that?
I think the biggest thing was at that point I saw JT go to closer, and like when JT became a closer, he went from driving this beat up car to like brand new Tesla, and I that's what I was thinking about every time. Is like if I quit, I'm missing that version of Thomas that exists out there. Like there's a broke Thomas and there's closer Thomas, and I just could not rob myself of closer Thomas. I knew he existed. I just had to do the work to get there, and that was 100% my mindset. It's like I could quit and I could go do something else, and maybe I'll make enough money to just pay my bills. But closer Thomas is going to make like life changing money, and that was all I had to think about for me to like never even really consider leaving.
And so you get qualified closer, right? Start closing. You qualify December, January. This is 2023 now, right? 2023. You started closing in Austin. That was kind of whenever y'all had like a good run up.
Yeah.
I think y'all did like, what, 800,000 whenever y'all did a little blitz down there in Dallas as well.
Yep.
You were closing then too, huh?
Yes, yeah, that was like my first month closing.
Yeah, what would you say, going from an appointment setter to a closer, what would you say is the biggest, learning experience, I guess you could say, that you had?
I would say definitely leadership was a big one. Like I was all boys with all the setters at the time. I was like, everyone was rooting for me. They really wanted me to qualify. And then once I got in the closer room, Zach was like, they're not your friends anymore. And it's going to be hard. In fact, they're probably going to end up hating you because of the big switch. Like from out knocking with these guys every day, being, the hero of the office to like now I'm just one of the closers and I got to hold a standard. That was probably the hardest one right off the bat, where like immediately, like if I had to call a knocker and crack them about a zero, they're like, damn, dude, what's Thomas doing? Like, why is he acting like that?
And we was boys.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say that was the first thing I noticed. Second thing, the money, really. Like I went from like, making, I think even on the old commission, my biggest month as a knocker was like $7,000 or $8,000, and then I made like $7,000 or $8,000 my first week being a closer. So I was just like, what is this? Then you start thinking about life a little bit different. Obviously you start to cherish the job a lot more. You start being a little bit more prideful of the whole thing, which kind of goes back to the knockers. Like you're upset with them, but you're not upset with them because they're not making you money. You're upset with them because you want them to have this. So yeah, I would say that was probably that was some of the quick challenges I ran into pretty much immediately. It was just like, oh wow, how do I hold on to this?
Yeah, and so you started closing it. Obviously you started getting a taste of the life changing money. You worked down in Austin. You worked in Austin before I got here with Zach, and then you went down to Houston, and then you came back to Austin. So you've kind of seen a bunch of different teams. You know what I mean? You've seen Austin before I got here, whenever it hit its peak, and then you've seen it on the downfall, right?
Right.
Talk about what, because you just got announced market owner, right?
Yeah.
San Antonio, April 1st, so that's super exciting as well.
Yeah.
Talk about some of the traits or some of the lessons that you've learned being a part of multiple different teams that different challenges and different successes and different failures. What is one thing that you know for a fact that you have to implement in your Austin and in your office in San Antonio?
It's a good question. Obviously, culture is the easy answer on that. Like having a standard for the room where like their knocking partners holding them accountable. It doesn't need to always be the market owner dropping the whip on them or the closers backing the market owner, but the knockers helping the knockers. So culture is everything. But I'd say the number one thing I know I'm going to have to look out for is just not letting the cancer grow. If you see something going on, you gotta cut it quick. Whether that's a setter, a closer, or even myself. Catching myself feeling comfortable or catching myself feeling weak, I got to stop it right then and there before it grows. Because that's one thing that I've seen throughout all the offices I've been in is like one small thing that you're like, oh, that's probably not good. And then that ended up being like a very crucial moment a couple months down the road. So I would say, one, culture for sure. I'm going to have to continue to bring that with me. Obviously, we have a great culture in Austin. Bringing that same culture with me to San Antonio, having all the guys understand what we're doing here is just different. And then, two, not letting the cancer grow. Make hard decisions, Sometimes it's not easy to be the guy to make the call to say, hey, dude, you no longer have a job anymore. But that's something that you got to do.
Yeah, that's the hardest part about my job, to be honest with you.
Right.
I really want to, we could talk about performance windows all day. We know we can do that. I want to talk about just you as a person, right?
Right.
22 years old?
Yeah.
22 years old, right? Making life-changing money.
Yeah.
how making the money that you make at such a young age, how are you able to prevent that from, being somebody that people don't want to be around,
Yeah.
an arrogant person, right? Because money's powerful. People
Yeah.
don't realize it, but money is powerful, right? All it is a buying product, right?
Yep.
You can buy stuff with it. In a sense, it has no value, but it has a lot of value.
It's crazy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, especially when you start making a lot of money, you look at it very differently. What do you do to help hold yourself to where you don't become that arrogant person, right, with that big ego where people don't want to be around you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing obviously is like God first. God humbles me every day, right? He will let me know whenever I'm like getting out of character for sure. But I would say yeah, it's just knowing where I came from. Like I remember being the hungry kid and the hungry adult and like understanding that that's real life. Like that's sometimes just what people go through, and I'm not better than the person next to me just because I have more money in my bank account. But some of the things I do to just kind of keep myself in that right headspace is just exactly what I said. Just think about some of the hard times and then how I can help that person, right? Instead of always looking at it like, oh, I'm better than them because of this, or like maybe I could help them get to where I'm at. And kind of goes back into the performance thing, but it's exactly like that. Just bringing people into my situation and seeing if it can help them or not, and then kind of rolling with it that way. But obviously, just never like looking at someone different because I'm in a better situation for them. It can be hard in a sense where like a friend, right? Where I know I could help this friend, but maybe they're pushing back on me because they think I've changed a little bit. Because instead of giving them money or giving them something, I'm trying to make them earn it. That might be one of the challenges where I can catch myself getting frustrated. Like, dude, they're a loser, right? But there's definitely a time where I got to take a step back and be like, all right, well, what's really going on with them, and what can I do to explain my approach a little bit better to them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is something that's a little bit different for myself is, when I'm recruiting people from Louisiana, that's my hometown, right? Recruiting people from from there, and they're telling me that, and they see how much it's changed my life, but also I moved across the country, right?
Yeah.
You're recruiting locally.
Yeah.
So it's not like, especially right now, currently in Austin, you haven't, this is your home ground. This is your
Yeah.
stomping grounds, right? You know everything around this place, and your approach to people that are still stuck in, like, your life has changed, but
Yeah.
you can still look at your old life,
Yeah.
right, on a daily basis, right? You see it all the time.
Yeah.
How do you separate that? How do you not allow yourself to fall back in those old habits, rather than distancing yourself to constant growth?
I gotta be in better circles. That's the easy answer. I can't be around some of the people I used to be around back in the day, because it's exactly what you said. I almost feel like it's easier, Like that's one thing I'm looking forward to with going to San Antonio is getting out of Austin and getting people out of Austin because it's where all the pain's at and it's where all the distractions are at as well. So yeah, I would say I think that's like a really big thing that I still struggle with is like going to so and so's house and then seeing some of the things like I remember, like, oh, I remember this, I remember feeling like that, or but I'm different now. I'm better now. I care more now than I did whenever I was 16 or 17. And the unfortunate thing about it is, yeah, I had to get in different circles. I can't hang out. Some of the friends I had when I was 18 aren't my friends now. And it's not because I'm better than them, but it's because I can't allow myself to fall back into bad habits. I can't allow myself to lose. I can't allow myself to, think like I used to. Because if you're not growing, you're dying. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and kind of whenever you're doing that, let's talk about opening up San Antonio, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you believe is going to be and when we're saying this, opening up San Antonio, yeah, we're talking at a performance windows perspective,
Yeah.
but in reality, it's if any of the listeners are looking to open up a business, that's the exact
Right.
same thing what you're doing.
100%.
You're just a franchise of performance windows,
Mm-hmm.
right? What do you feel like is going to be your biggest challenge whenever you go to open up that market?
I think getting people to understand, right? Because what we do is so unique, and it's like to like a random person that might be like, "This is like a cult," Like, why do they think like this? Why do they act like that? But I think getting them to see the vision, getting them to understand what we're doing here, we are all trying to change our lives. Even at the state I'm in, I'm still trying to change my life. Yeah, now I'm at the point where maybe I'm trying to change my kid's life or their kid's life, because when you get to higher in the company, obviously like the financial gain is just completely different every time. But I think, yeah, just getting them to buy into the vision. I'm gonna bring in obviously people to San Antonio, people that have no idea about the job now, people who have maybe I've talked about it a year ago, and they're going to have to just kind of understand what we're doing. Like they have to be able to buy into the idea of fixing and changing their life, because that's what we're here to do. Like no one wants to live a bad life, right? No one's gonna, if they had a choice, bad or good life, no one's gonna choose bad, right? They just don't necessarily know how to. And some people do know how to and still choose to not do it, but those aren't the people we're really worried about. It's mostly people who are, asking for help or looking for help, and then bringing them onto a business. And obviously in the performance window situation, the system's already laid out for you. We don't have to come up with something. I don't really have to strategize on how I sell windows, right? We have a system already laid out for that. I just have to bring them on, get them to believe the vision, and then the training and all that stuff is easy.
Yeah, that's why I always go back to my saying of if you buy into the vision and you implement the systems of performance windows, you will be successful.
Every time.
Every time. The system will always pay you back, but you got to be loyal to it, right?
Big time.
We preach it. Talk about, just kind of wrap things up a little bit, before we go. You made a big jump. So you were a closer for 2 years.
Yep.
Closer for 2 years. What did you do on a personal basis to bring you from an average person in the company to a top producer in the company? What did you do personally as far as like a mental switch?
Embrace the hard, for sure. Like the biggest one was like my living situation. I went from me and Vanessa so comfortable to having 5 people in my house and building my team, right? That's a prime example of like me doing more. Like it's so easy to just clock out and be like, all right, I'll worry about tomorrow's problems tomorrow. But no, I'm solving today's problems tonight and planning for what tomorrow's going to be as well, right? That little thing right there made me so much more engaged in the job. And then also just like humbling myself, investing in my craft. There'd be times where when I first got here, you're like, Thomas, that's not good. And for the last 2 years, I thought that was incredible, right? So being able to take a step back and be like, my craft's not perfected. Let me continue to invest in it while matching it, while doing hard things makes other things easier. I think those are the two big things for me, is just doing the hard and then doing more.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people, their ego gets in the way of their success.
Big
right?
time.
Like you're talking about whenever, I'd give you feedback, right? But taking that, humbling yourself, taking that feedback and always looking to try to get better. A lot of people, I feel like their ego gets in the way to where they don't want to be like, well, Dakota helped me fix my problem.
Yeah.
Right. They want to fix their own problems.
They want to be able to say they figured it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
rather than just swallow your ego, take a step back, right, and just try to become the best version of yourself. And if you constantly do that, you're proven, right? You constantly focus on just becoming the best version of Thomas and the best version of any of the listeners, right? If you do that, then you will be successful, right? Yep. I always say to become a millionaire, you got to live like one, right? Yeah. You don't see millionaires going out to the bar every night, going to drink, you know what I mean, snorting cocaine. You don't see people doing that, right? They're living a good quality life, living, and it's not easy, right? You think a good quality life is supposed to be easy.
It sucks, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard, right? But every time you put your head down at night, you're like, I got better today. I got 1% better today. And if you win the day, then you're going to win a year, win a month, and you're just going to, win a lifetime, and that's what we're here to do.
Yeah, it's always what I say, be the constant.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the best way you can put it, consistency, but being the constant. You are the same way every day, or you're trying to be better every day. That's the constant.
Yeah. Control what you can control.
100%.
Heck yeah, bro.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on,
Absolutely.
dude.
Yeah,
you got follow. Make sure y'all follow Thomas Hernandez.
Yes.
If we're opening up the San Antonio market April 1st, so
definitely looking for people.
Yeah, looking for people. He's gonna be growing. It's gonna be $1 million office, and then heck, maybe even $2 million one day.
I know. Well, can't wait to be competing with Austin.
Yeah. It ain't gonna be long, bro.
Yeah.
It ain't gonna be long. You're gonna be right there, dude. But hey, I'm super proud of you. It was a pleasure to get on the pod with you.
Absolutely.
But hey, y'all make sure y'all like and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment below. And hey, we love all the supporters. So peace out.
Absolutely.